College life can be challenging, especially for Black students facing unique struggles and pressures, but you don't have to face it alone. Introducing Reju, the mental health app created by Black innovators for people of all walks of life. Reju understands your pain and mental health struggles because it's designed by people who truly get it. With Reju, you have access to culturally competent therapists, stress reduction techniques, and a supportive community all at your fingertips. Get ready to join a community that understands you, supports you, and helps you thrive.
Everybody, my name is Dante Wade, and I am your humble and gracious host of Psych and Hip-Hop. I am also the COO and co-founder of Reju, which is a mental health and wellness mobile application aiming to serve as a personal guide to mental, physical, and emotional success. We have a very special guest with us today. This individual has been on the front lines from the legal standpoint, the hip-hop standpoint, and just in the community. And the mission is really to use his success to make life easier for others. So we have with us today none other than the minister, Dr. Philip Jordan. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, boss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining today, and I really want to get right into it. So I want to go back into that mission. I was looking up a little bit of information on you, and it said that your mission was to improve the condition of others using your success. So I want to ask you, what does that mean to you? And at what point did you decide that you were going to dedicate your life and your works to really helping your community?
Well, honestly, first of all, I believe that parents has a lot to do with what's going on with the youth today. When I was growing up, you know, we were more afraid of our parents than we was of the streets. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did a lot of different things too. A lot of things in the streets and stuff. But you wanted to make sure that it never got back to the house. We always have potholes in our lawn, right? Always have potholes. So it doesn't matter how much the eggs cost. It don't matter how much the steak costs, how much bread costs. If we want it, we're gonna find a way to get it. I don't know how, right? You don't know how, but if you want it, we get it. And to attest to that is we as African Americans, we make they say we spend about maybe $2 trillion a year or something like that, right? But see, again, here go the wordplay. We spend, right? In order to spend 2 trillion, you got to do what? Make no, you got to make 2 trillion. You understand what I'm saying? In order to spend it, you have to have already had it, right? And mind you, when you look at that, think of all the potholes that we already have, but yet and still, as consumers that we are, we still buy stuff. We still buy it. So to me, I believe that no matter what happens, everybody's still gonna have a good Thanksgiving. I think people are gonna come a little bit closer together and help each other out. You know what I mean? You might start going to people's houses now, right? Instead of just staying home and watching football or chilling with your wife or your girl or whatever, you might decide to go to your grandmother's house, your mother's house or whatever, and everybody just chip in. Like back in the days when we used to have rent parties and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I believe that's what's going to happen with or without the food stamps. You think that the black man or the black woman is going to starve? You kidding me? Look, we 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 came through COVID. Think about that. Just I mean, or when you think about slavery and everything, that was horrific. That was bad, right? But for people like us, when COVID hit, that was something that we never experienced before. You can't shake nobody's hand. You can't talk to nobody. You can't leave your house because you don't know what's outside. You know, and there were people who worked all their life and never took vacation or nothing because they think that they wasn't going to be able to, they was going to lose their job or whatever. And there were people who went home because they had to go home and realized that they could still live. and they still ate, and they didn't die of starvation and stuff like that. So that awoken a lot of people. A lot of people got to realize, like, wait a minute, I could do this. I could do it. There were people who, like, grandmothers and grandfathers, even mothers and fathers who are a little bit older, that all they did was use the phone for phone calls, that learned how to do Zoom and learn how to maneuver through the cosmos as it pertains to cell phones and stuff like that. So, I just think that if we start like what we're doing right now, start building a little bit more together, as a community, we're gonna be all right. Because at the end of the day, all we got is us, right? You know what I mean? As human beings, whether you're white, black, or whatever, it's what's in your heart. Your heart is what it is. The skin color is just the outer shell. You know what I'm saying? It's what's inside your heart. What's your structure? What's your molecular structure? Is it whack or is it dope? You know what I'm saying? You're either whack or you're dope. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
100%. And something you said that really stood out to me, and it reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine a few months back. And in the conversation, I essentially said, a community is as strong as the families that are within the community. And you mentioning, it starts at home and those family values and that foundation, and utilizing that to propel and push your community forward I couldn't agree more with you. Now, let me ask you this too, because I was, looking up a little bit about you and your story, and I understand that your family actually comes from Barbados and you transitioned to the Bronx, New York when you were younger as well. So tell me a little bit about your culture and your experience and how that shaped you both from the Caribbean side to moving to the Bronx, New York.
The word that comes, if I was to tell you the first word that came to my mind, and then I guess I could figure it out after. You're probably gonna ask me why. I don't know, but the first word that came to my mind was humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
100%.
maybe that shit is whack. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
what should I say? Common unity for who, right? Because there's a whole bunch of us, right? Different nationalities and you know different ideologies and all that kind of stuff, right? So only thing I can say is if it can't
Mm-hmm.
just say common unity for black people. That's not gonna work, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
say common unity for white
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
because that's not gonna work because there's different groups of white people. You got the Americans, you got
Mm-hmm.
Italians, you got Germans, you got Russians, you got Englishmen.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Swedish, So you know what I'm saying? So you can't just so it gotta be for humanity, it gotta be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be for no one particular group of people.
Mm-hmm.
That don't even make no type of sense.
So one thing that you mentioned was breaking down the word of community, the common unity between individuals. And then you mentioned how, within us as a community, African Americans, things of that nature, a lot of the times we have been in a hole.
I had a friend that used to tell me, you got to do this and got to. I'm like, yeah. Then something happened, and when that happened, I was like, okay, cool. You know what? I think he's right. So I called him. He lives out in Long Island now, called Craig, and he had a group called New Sound. So they asked me to manage them, and we all went to school together, right? They asked me to manage them, and um, I got with Jazzy J from the Zulu Nation, right? And at that time, the guy who runs the Universal um, Museum, right, Rocky, he, him and Jazzy, and we all was part of this label called Strong City and stuff, and it just started going from there, And I remember there used to be this thing called the New Music Seminar, right? And since then, they still haven't had a real conference that was better than the New Music Seminar. This guy Tom Silverman that had Tommy Boy Records was behind it, and it would be like for a whole week, and people would come from all over the world. And when I say all over the world, I mean all over the world. And I remember I was at work one day, and one of the Zulus called me, and it was like a Wednesday or something like that. I know, I think it might have been Pooh that called me. I was like, yo, meet us downtown. I said, for what? He's like, we're going to this club. I said, it's Wednesday. You're talking about that shit. Nobody's going to be there. Who goes to club on Wednesday? And he's like, man, you just don't know. So anyhow, I drove down there. I went in. I saw so many people in this club. I'm like, yo, don't these niggas got no, don't got no jobs? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Wednesday. You understand what I'm saying? Right? And it just so happens that that was the day when this group called Above the Law had jumped Ice Cube, because he was part of, NWA and all that. And then the Zulus helped, helped him because he was by himself. There was gets like putting in work on him. And then, this guy named B.O., God bless the dead, him and the Shaka security went and helped him. And that's how he really got heavy in New York at that point. Because then he got, I think, with the boys from out there by in Long Island, Hank Shockley and them. You know what I mean? And that's when everything started booming. I kept moving and moving and moving. And then I just started putting some money in, and we started our own label, and we was making noise independently. And I knew Steve Rifkin's father, from some Italians that I knew, So um, I didn't know that was his father, because we also had some things going on in L.A. at the time, and I went to see him, but I didn't know that was his father. That was his father at the time. So anyhow, by the time I got back to New York and I went to the office and I seen him, I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "That's my son." I'm like, "Steve's your son?" And things just kept rolling and rolling, and then and the biggest thing about the independent world that I realized though is I thought that everybody was really and truly independent, like I was. I was really on that NWA type, because again I come from the Zulu mentality, legal aid mentality, street mentality, yeah, and we had our own records in the stores, and we was doing our own videos with Ralph McDaniels and all that. We had a record called Buck the Boys in Blue, you know, and I remember I went to the distributor, and there was a white guy there, and the guy I went to pick up a check for the music, and the guy introduced me to the white guy. When he walked away, he said he's the guy that owns Luke Skywalker records. I'm like, that's not him. Luke owned it. You know what I mean? Black guy. He's like, nah, he is. He's the attorney. He's the guy behind. I said, get out of here. So as he was started showing me other people that they distribute, right? I saw NWA, and then I saw the white guy that was behind NWA that everybody was talking about, that was ripping them off or whatever. And then he showed me all that. I said, wait a minute. So all these people got white people behind them? You know what I'm saying? So I was like, wait. And at this time, I had just turned down the deal with Warner Brothers, right? Because I'm thinking, you know, everybody's militant. You know what I mean? Talk about feeling stupid. Man, listen, I felt like, you don't even know how dumb I felt. I mean, that day, I think it was a place called Malvern, distributors in Secaucus. I don't think I said a word from Secaucus all the way back to New York. I was so dumbfounded, like everybody got people behind them. I'm turning down deals, Select Records, Warner Brothers. I'm thinking everybody's on some real, from the corner. You know what I mean? And from there, I just got to realize what it was. Then I got another group that was signed to an independent label going through Virgin called Cardiac Records, and this lady, right, that was ran the label, you know, um, she gave me a book, right, to read called Hitman. And she said, read this whole book. This is the Bible of the industry. And that book told me everything and prepared me for everything that's going on, even right now. You know what I mean? Like, it was really, I mean, everything was in the book about all the bad stuff, the drugs and, you know, people getting beat up. This when the mob really ran the music business, you know what I mean? People getting beat up with bats, you know what I'm saying? And, program directors getting ran down on. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it taught me, and then how to maneuver too. You got to know how to maneuver, you know what I mean? And about being tough. I remember my uncle a couple of years ago when he came from jail. He's like, "Yo, man, I can't wait till everybody who went to jail in the '80s, you know, and the '90s start coming home. We're gonna run through this industry. We're gonna turn this shit upside down." I said, "You need to stay your ass in the house, because all y'all niggas who think like that is gonna end up in jail. This is not the don't come in here, because the music business. People think that the music business is soft, but it's a facade. It's the worst place you could be." You know what I'm saying? It's the worst place you could be. If you're in the street, two things happen, right? Three things happen. You make money, you die, you go to jail. One of those. Over here, you could be in this game forever and never see land. You might not drown, right? You might not drown, but you'll never see land. People they give you a 6 for a 9 all day. They give you it's a 6, but they tell you it's a 9. And you running down the block thinking you got a 9. 6 months later, you realize it's a 6. You just wasted 6 months of your time. You know what I mean? So this game is and they had to do it like that because the period of time that we're talking about, right? It was about unity, right? We didn't have the internet, but yet and still we knew everything that was going on. No matter what state it happened in, we knew. Right? And people will make records about it. Like if something bad happened or whatever, it was music that was also like a lot of these kids right now. If you was to play them Public Enemy or Brand Nubians or Tribe Called Quest or something, they'll look at you like, "What the hell is that?" Because they don't know that they could actually say something positive and still have fun and make money with it.
And it's really a testament to sometimes you don't know how strong you are or what you can endure until you find yourself actually going through it in the midst of it. And, I think that's a testament to not only, our strength as a community, but people's strength overall. People overcome insurmountable odds every day. And I want to ask you a question. I'm going to formulate it like this, like a fill in the blank. Based off of the way you broke down the word community, is common unity for fill in the blank. What's that blank right there?
Yeah, but at the same token, you know what I'm saying? We flipping burgers to get the bread to make these things happen. You understand what I'm saying? And then somebody comes and tell you, that's like let's say like Ryan. Ryan comes and tells me, "Yo, Phil, uh, I want to do a deal with you," and and I look at Ryan and be like, "Nah, I'm all right, I'm good." You know what I'm saying? I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Ryan is with Fox Sports, right? I'm like, "Nah, I'm good, though. I'm good, son. I'm all right." Because we got paper. You understand what I'm saying? And because we got paper, and I didn't come from like I don't I don't come from the projects, right? So I don't I'm not from the street. I'm of the street. There's a difference between the two. I'm not from the street. You dig what I'm saying? So my mentality on things I look at things much different from most people. You know what I'm saying? We all the my I mean my whole crew, we private houses. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? Not man, a lot of stuff wasn't good. I'm talking about connected to Puff from the beginning before Bad Boy Records. Before Bad Boy Records. And you know everything that went on with that situation. I mean, none of that other crazy shit that we talking about right now, but we talking about the real shit, not that. That shit that he's dealing with, he picked that up along the way dealing with them. That ain't something that we do. That's something he picked up, and then because you got money, you have fun. You know, hey, I want you to do this. Hey, do that. Yeah, do that. Yeah, you know, you got money, and you got a high now because you got so much money. You know what I'm saying? You can say whatever you want about him, but he's in jail with $1 billion, and with two more waiting on him when he come home. You know what I'm saying?
Is a good segue into something that has been a unifier of people no matter where they're from, which is music, and an industry that you've been involved in for quite some time. So tell me, how'd you get your start in the music industry? Was it always a part of the plan? Was it a passion that you had, or was it something that, you just followed the path and kept walking?
Already, that's right. I'm gonna jump out the window head first. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that's the thing. The music, the poison music business. Girls feel like they can't rap unless they're actually half naked on stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's to the point where you see so much ass now. It's like, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we do it, but at the same time, you got to understand they're feeding their families. They're taking the family out of poverty or whatever strife that they might have been in. So you got to kind of see with it. You can't, but that's where if you got the right people around you now, you go, okay, we got enough now. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna open up this store. We're gonna start this company. We're gonna do whatever. So now you don't have to, you know show off all your body anymore now. You can kind of cover it up a little bit, but it becomes a drug. It becomes getting that bread. Every week you're making 100,000 or something like that. Do 2 or 3 shows. It becomes a drug. Nobody can tell you nothing. You don't want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a dick rider. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a dick rider. Yeah, I got a friend of mine who one of the guys that just called me just now. I had to flip on him, right? Young boy, he's not young, but he's still younger than me. And he met me when I was on a high. Okay, you know, I had a TV show on NBC, a TV show on ABC, big office downtown. You know what I'm saying? I was always still in the background though. So we got a saying. If you're not right, don't stand in the spotlight, right? So you stay in the shadows and you get your things together until it's time to come back out. Sometimes Ryan will call me and tell me, I'll be like, nah, man, I ain't right. I'm not going to. Even though I might want to go to the baseball, I'm not going to the baseball game. I'm not going to the football game. I'm not coming out to the Hamptons. You understand what I'm saying? I got to gear myself up for these things because I'm not right the way I want to be right. I can front though. I can front good. I got jewels. I got fly shit. I can front, but that's not my style. You know what I'm saying? I got to feel right within. You know what I mean? And you know, I guess maybe that's something that I was born with. I guess so. And I think it's my people that I've been around too. Because it's you know, like I said, I come from Zulu Nation, so I learned a lot about the game over there too. You know what I'm saying? On all levels, all levels. And I think that you know being a person who grew up in the church and having people pray for me and stuff like that, I think that I had people spirits protecting me and stuff. Because there's things that happened where I was a hair away from not even ever being on this phone right now. You know what I mean? Like hair away, I could have went left, I could have went right and been had my head knocked off. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just something that you have inside you. You know, and this music, like you can't be bought. You know what I mean? I had to tell him like, 'cause he asked me something about my nonprofit. Do I want to sell the nonprofit? He'll give me X amount of money. I took that as very offensive. Like, the fuck is wrong with you, nigga? You think I'm a crackhead or something? You know what I'm saying? What the fuck you talking about? I had to flip on him crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really get down like that because it's like whatever. But I felt like, okay, nigga, you really don't know me. You know what I'm saying? To even come at me with that bullshit. You know what I mean? So, it's you gotta believe in yourself and you just gotta stand on your own. And I'm like, yo, if that's the case, I'll call Russell Simmons and tell him how he's a great guy and kiss his ass all the way till he comes to New York or some shit. You understand what I'm saying? Or call one of my people I know at these record labels or one of these politician niggas and shit and suck them niggas off. You know what I'm saying? Tell them how great, and I don't mean suck them off, suck them off. I just mean like, pat them on the back and hang out with them or follow them around and be their lackey and shit. If that's the case, you know what I'm saying? But, I think it's a big, maybe if I was a little nigga, maybe I could do some shit like that, but I'm a big nigga, so I got to do big nigga shit. You understand what I'm saying? I can't do little nigga shit. You know what I mean? That's just not my style, but I just move differently, man. You gotta have you gotta have patience. That's the biggest thing too. You gotta have patience in this game, man. Gotta have patience and believe because God is gonna give it to you, but you gotta get out your way and let God work in His own time. You know what I'm saying? And when it happens, you gotta be prepared. You know what I'm saying? You can't rush it. You know what I'm saying? Got That's the most important thing, man. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith, man. Faith is the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? Because with faith, see, faith and fear can't live in the same space. It's like oil and water. You know what I'm saying? Faith and fear. If you got faith, when faith enters, fear departs. And now once you have faith, you believe, like it's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna happen, and you want it to happen right. Sometimes it can happen because the opponent can bless you too, right? He can bless you too. You gotta be careful of the blessing and where's it coming from, and you know people don't realize that if you want a blessing, you gotta have with the blessing comes a problem, right? You can't have a blessing without a problem. I gotta pay my car note. Then comes a blessing. You know what I'm saying? My son is going. Exactly. You got to have a problem so that God can bless you. You know what I'm saying? You want it, and then you gotta be ready to have that problem and get that blessing. You know what I mean? And you gotta have that type of understanding. What keeps my faith is because I know that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, it's not two and two is four in any country you go to. That mathematics is a universal language. I don't care what country you go to, two and two, it always equal four. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with faith. Whether you're a Muslim or you a Jew or you a Buddhist or whatever, right? Everybody believes in that one, in that higher being, right? Um, Christians believe that Jesus, is the Son of God, and you can't get to God unless you go through Jesus. And Jesus was crucified for our sins, and he resurrected and went to heaven, right? Other people believe Jesus was just a man that walked. He was just a regular man, and he was, not the Messiah and all that. Everybody has their own different beliefs at certain times. But the one thing that we all have in common, right, is that they believe in unity, right? We believe that there's a higher power, right? And once you understand that, right, then one of the major things that I walk on is the fact that, the most important thing to me is you got to have your own personal relationship with God, right? Your own relationship, right? Like, I was talking to Grand Pooba recently. His mother passed away. And I had said something to him. Then I said, you know what? I understand though, because you don't really believe in God. He said, no, 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 you're bugging. I believe that there's a higher being, but I forgot about that. Five pretenders do believe there's a higher being. And everybody got some good stuff in them, right?
And I want to give you a chance since we're, on this platform, I'm interviewing you to share some of what you're doing now. I've seen that there's a new organization, Hip Hop Fraternity, that you're a part of, and I've seen a lot of other OGs on that lineup as well. So could you just tell us a little bit about what Hip Hop Fraternity is and what we could expect in the near future from it?
Hip Hop Fraternity is an organization that was started by this gentleman named Ken Ivy. He's better known as Pimpin' Ken. He's one of
Hmm.
the top guys, pimp guys, as it pertains to pimping and the music business.
Hmm.
It's like him, and then Magic Don Juan out of Chicago and stuff. That's like maybe like one and two, and then everybody
Hmm.
else follows behind that.
Hmm.
As it, I mean, I don't know if that's the way it is, but I know that's the way it is when it comes to the music side. You
Yeah.
know, and so he started that, and now we got a bunch of chapters around the country, and we have calls every 2 weeks, and it's about what we're doing right now, helping up and coming artists and up and coming individuals that want to be in the music business, helping them to understand the game and giving them some guidance,
Hmm.
right, where they can learn and help others too, paying it back or paying it forward, I guess you call it, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we have a couple of artists and everything, it's going very well. You know,
That's awesome.
my partner, who's the vice president of the Strong Enough Materials Foundation, he's the CEO of Hip Hop Fraternity. You know, and I'm the COO of the Hip Hop Fraternity and the Bronx chapter as well. And then
That's
then
good.
then then we have the Strong Enough Materials Foundation, which is a 501c3, which we are more concentrated on bringing resources to people, you
Hmm.
know, and programs and food. Like we usually feed people every Friday somewhere, heavy in the Bronx though, but we've done Brooklyn and Queens and places like that as well. Far Rockaway, no, not Far Rockaway, Coney Island and places like that. So we've been doing this since um, COVID. you
Absolutely.
know. So and we try to bring artists to come and participate in it. This Friday we're doing something over there on Crotona Avenue in the Bronx. And I gotta do more with the advertising though, because we need more people, because we get a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
So we got to try to get as many people to come out there as possible and get what they need. I'm working on something with Bally's right now. You know,
Hmm.
the casino and hotel that they're bringing to the Bronx. I'm working on trying to get them to help do some things within the Bronx community to help. Because the Bronx is like there's 62 counties in New York State, and the Bronx is number 62 out of everybody. You know, we're at the bottom of the barrel. So we need it more than anybody else when it comes to everything from asthma to obesity to hypertension, high blood pressure, you name it. We at the bottom of the barrel. So I also got to working something out with Stop and Shop as well. It's you get listen. You gotta have the mentality of if that's what you want, go get it. You know what I mean?
100%.
I can't. That's how I came up with people like my mentors. They it wasn't no excuses. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, I give a short story. When I was working for Warner Brothers, my boss, who was the vice president at the time, I was having a problem with one of Jaheim's songs. Because they had Jaheim before I got there, but he wasn't nowhere. He was in a box. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he made me look through the box and find what records he felt that I could really get meaning go gold or better.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked Jaheim, I picked Eric Benet, and this girl named Terry Dexter, and we was doing good. We was battling everybody, we was slaying. We had a lot of other people like Nex and Bilal and all these other people out there, but we was serving them. But there's this dude in Baltimore that just wasn't, he wasn't trying to, he wasn't helping. So I remember my boss called me and cursed me out, right? And said, "You better get your ass in Baltimore and don't come back till my record is playing." you
Mm.
know what I'm
And that's how
saying?
he was coming.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just how it was. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I had to get up and get in the car and drive and go do whatever I got to do to get that record played.
To make
And
it
you know what I'm
happen.
saying? So it was, if you want it, go get it.
Yeah.
Can't sit around and complain about nothing. You know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
not even with Trump. You know what I mean? Like I understand what's going on, but you can't. You know, that's a distraction, man. Keep it moving.
You got to get
You
it
know,
regardless.
you gotta
And I
get it, man.
And I think that actually brings me to my last question I want to ask you. And before I even ask that, I want to thank you for taking the time to connect. We definitely got to add your social media handles and where we could find all your businesses to the chat so folks will see this when they replay this. But for my last question, I want to ask you this. November is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Hmm.
And some statistics that we've been noticing over the last few years is men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. And the number of men who have been committing suicide has been increasing as the years pass by, even looking at examples such as the player for the Dallas Cowboys last week.
Hmm.
So I want to ask you from your perspective as a mentor, advocate, executive producer, somebody who's really community focused, if you could leave one piece of advice to a man who may be watching this video and struggling with their mental health, what would that advice be?
I'm always gonna go to faith. I'm
Mm,
always gonna go to God. I'm always gonna go to the Bible.
mm,
I myself went through that, right? Now it wasn't. I mean, maybe I'm bugging. I don't know, but I think at some point men always think as something happens, you always think about killing yourself. But it goes through your mind and then keep it going. It doesn't
mhm,
stop. You might
mhm,
think about it, but I contemplate, but we don't. Then you go, nah, I'm bugging. So what it might be a girl. You might be, she's leaving me. Whatever. Maybe your mom's passed away, whatever. But that's not the thing. I used to have these anxiety attacks,
mm,
like real bad. I mean, when I tell you bad, I would have maybe 10, 15, 20 a day, man.
mm,
Even when I was working for Warner Brothers, that's when it was worse. I'm talking about I'll be driving and my brain would be like, jump out the car, jump out the car. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Open the door and jump out the car. You know, drive over drive over the bridge. You could
mhm,
make it. You could swim. Like
mhm,
they were crazy. Like for real, for real. You know, and I remember I was in a limo one day, and all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't breathe and I wasn't getting enough air. I started freaking out. Went to the hospital. I talked to the doctor. The doctor said, it took a while because I was in the emergency room. Came, so he asked me, so what's the problem? I told him. He said, your chest hurt? No. Your arm? No. Um, you smoke crack? I'm like, nah. He said, you sniff coke? I'm like, nah. He's like, do you smoke cigarettes? I said, sometimes. He said, you drink? I said, sometimes. He said, okay. What business you in? I said, entertainment business. He smirked and smiled and said, I have a seat. So I said, what is that about? He said, I get you guys all the time, man.
mm,
Stress. You know what I mean? So he gave me some pills. I came home. I don't believe in taking these type of pills, so I never took them, right? But every so often, I used to get them. But I'm talking about I don't get them anymore because I started carrying the Bible with me, you know,
Mm.
and I started praying, and I see the Bible is right in front of me right now, but a big one. I had a smaller one, and then I downloaded one of the apps, one of the Bible apps on my phone,
Mhm.
just in case it hit me again. I'm go get it real quick and start reading, and whatever demon or whatever that's on me, get that shit up off of me. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So all I can tell you is what we went through in this faith, man. And see the problem too as men, right? We are not supposed to be stressed.
Hmm.
We are not supposed to have that. We're not because we are men. We're supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to, you know, look like we because that's the sign of weakness, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't have a brother, a good friend, someone to talk to, things like that can happen because, we at the bottom of the barrel, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's trying to keep us down. Everybody's trying to keep us down. So, only thing I can say is faith, man. I can't call it nothing else, man. Like you just gotta always to me. I can only speak for me. I can't speak for Joe Schmo. You know what I mean? All I know is that just and you can't and it's not like you just put it there and leave it, but you still got something to do, because
Yeah.
the Bible itself says faith without works is dead,
Hmm.
right? So you got to
Hmm.
put in the work too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, I believe, and I don't got to do nothing. I don't got
Yeah.
to. Nah, it don't work like that. You still got to put that work in, and then
Yeah.
you got So that's all I can say, man. That there's nothing that a human could do that's better than what God could do. And I'm not fronting. You know what I mean? I'm just telling
Hmm.
us how I get through this. You know what I mean? I take my time and make it happen, man. And believe that, and you got to believe that you better than the next man. You know what I'm saying? You got to believe, like I believe I'm better than you. You dig
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And
And
you
you
got
got
to
to
believe
prove
you
it.
better, and you got to believe you better than me. You understand?
Hmm.
Not better to the point where I'm looking down on you, or to the point where you're looking down on me. But you got to feel like you're the biggest, you're the baddest nigga. Nobody can see you.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Like it's like
Yep.
talking to a woman or something. You know what I mean? If you think if you allow a woman to think that she's so hot or she's so pretty or her titties so big or she got so much money she don't need, then that's what it's gonna be. But if you move
Hmm.
like you own the room, like you that dude, and you run shit, then you okay. Not to disrespect nobody, no nothing. I'm not taking it that far. I'm talking about
Gotta
you
believe in
within
yourself, though.
yourself, feeling
Hmm.
like you are the man, you the boss. You know what I'm saying? You the boss, Don. You'll be all right. When you start feeling inferior and then people out here ain't gonna they're not gonna care, man.
Yep.
If you're looking for somebody to it's cruel. It ain't like back in the days, man. It's cruel.
Hmm.
It's
Especially
a
with
cruel
social
world,
media.
man. Oh
Especially
my
with social
God,
media.
I went through that too. I went
Yeah.
I went through that. I was because I used to road manage Wendy for Kev and all that,
Hmm.
And when all that stuff was happening, you know what I'm saying? I got caught up in that whirlwind, and you know, it get to the and I'm afraid of social media,
Mm.
right? Because I don't know. I don't understand how these guys do what they do because where I come from, people would have got killed by now. You know what I'm saying? The way people talk about each other and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And when that happened to me, I had so many people calling me. If it wasn't for me working with Russell and working for Sharpton at the time, I probably might have jumped out the window. But I knew that I couldn't because then it would have been like, I would have pulled them into it because social media would have pulled them in.
Yep.
Because I worked for Russell and I worked. It got to a point where this guy talking like I was a homo or some shit.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I have nothing against gay people or nothing. I'm speaking again for me. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? And I'm like, what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So but
Understood.
guess what? Had to call on God. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
had to really like get down and because I was plot. I'm a Capricorn, and we plot, we plan, we strategize, and we execute to the fullest. You understand what I'm saying? I had people's address. I had their boyfriend, the girl, the wife. I had the whole shit sketched out, and,
Mhm.
and then it was like, okay, God was like, Phil, you gotta be bugging. You know, like, look what they did to Jesus. What makes you think that they can't attack you too?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
look what they did to Jesus. You think that they could do that to Jesus? And are you better? Like this is what came in my mind.
It
You
was
know what I'm saying?
humbling.
Look what, and this is before Puff went to jail and all that stuff. You know, they're like, everybody don't like. This is what he said to me in my brain. Everybody don't like Puff. Everybody don't like Jay. Everybody don't like Russell. Everybody don't like Dr. Dre. Everybody don't like 50. Everybody don't like Eminem. And them niggas is gone. And some of them, they're all doing something, somewhere in different countries and, doing water for people and giving money away and feeding people. And people still get down on them. So what makes you think that, it ain't what happened to you? And then that's when I
Hmm.
realized that, okay, just relax, man. It'll go away.
Yeah.
But this too shall pass. That's
Yes,
another
sir.
thing you got to remember. This too shall pass because it has to. No matter what it is, it got to go. Whether you die and it passes, or the situation goes to the side and something else takes its place. But this too shall pass. Like you say, social media is, whew, my
Yeah.
God. I don't know how people could do what they do, man. Like talk about each other like that and talk about each other's mothers, and that shit is man. I'm scared of that shit, man. That's why
People got
I don't get involved. I don't comment on nobody's stuff. I just do what I do and leave it alone. I ain't trying to. That shit is scary, man. That should have put a nigga in jail, man.
it would, but real life is more important. And on that note, I want to thank you for your time. You dropped a whole lot of gems. I appreciate everything that you're doing for the community, for hip hop overall. So, Minister Dr. Philip Jordan, I think we're gonna need a part two of this conversation because towards the end we started taking it to another place. But I do want to thank you for your time and
No
thanks
problem,
everybody for
boys. No,
tuning in
no
to
problem.
Psych Hip-Hop.
No problem. No problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Have a prosperous day, my brother.
You as well, my brother.
All right.